Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Baileyton Drug Company Eric Tilson Show, presented by Starnes Barber, where we cover everything on the Tundra with the North Greene Huskies football team. As always, I'm joined here with head coach Eric Tilson. Coach, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing much better. I got some medication and feel much better, so thank you to Baileyton Drug Company.
Well, I think I'm the one that needs to go to Baileyton Drug Company this week because I'm sure you'll hear it throughout the interview, but I got a little sniffle, so seems like I'm the one that needs to swing by Baileyton Drug Company. If you're ever feeling bad, you wake up one morning, can't go to school, can't go to work, call Baileyton Drug Company.
I also need a haircut, too, so I may have to, while you're going to Baileyton Drug, I'll head over to Starnes Barber.
That works. We'll give them both our businesses.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to both of them for being our lead sponsors this year, and good for us, they're going to be our lead sponsors for the TMB show also.
Oh.
So we'll have, after this, hopefully, I'm not going to say when because I've not nailed down that yet, but soon enough, we'll see the Baileyton Drug Company, James Buchanan and Sam Tarleton, TMB, B&T, whatever you want to refer to it as show.
That's a long
presented by Starnes Barbershop, yeah.
It's a long one, hey, but that is the best show. It is
quite
fantastic.
Literally is.
Yes,
you can't beat that show. A lot of people complain that it's won the Coach's Show of the Year award three straight years at the Roots Awards, but I mean, hey, even if it was fan voted, I think the fans would vote it that way too. You can't beat it.
I know I vote for it every time. It's fantastic. I love watching it.
It's a good show. Love coming here too. Love the round table. It's been quite a nice edition this year. Unfortunately, this is of course the last one we'll have after Friday night's loss. Harriman came in, as you told me, just a very good football team. Probably the best team that you had seen all year, and it came at a time when it was a win-or-go-home situation. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way you wanted it to in the end, and they put an end to your historic season. But before we talk about the historic season itself, take us through that game against Harriman this past Friday night.
Well, just want to make sure everybody knows that was not a typical 3 seed.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with Region 2 is very good. Coalfield is the number 1 in that league. They're number 2 in the state. Oliver Springs is their number 2. They're number 5 in the state. Harriman probably should be ranked somewhere around there. They have 3 losses. Coalfield, Oliver Springs, and Tellico Plains. And Tellico Plains turned around and beat the number 1 seed in 2A.
A team that was ranked 9th.
Yeah, so you're talking about really good football there, and it is hard to compete once you start getting in the Knoxville area from there because it's just a different brand of football.
Yeah.
Regardless, I'm very proud of our kids for getting to this point and being able to host a playoff game, and it was fun being able to do it at home. And we knew it's kind of hard to judge on film because you don't have a lot of common opponents. We knew they were good coming into it, and their running back had been their workhorse, had rushed for 1,800 yards this year, and we're like, okay, we're going to sell out and stop him. And if they beat us with somebody else, we'll tip our hat. So I got to tip their hat because we shut down their running back.
Yeah.
He did not have the game that he was expecting, but their quarterback was just as good as runner. I guess he just hasn't had to do it all year.
Yeah.
They did a good job with the counter because they were primarily a lot of strong side runs, so we overloaded front to one side, and then they started hurting us weak. We go back. They'd come back to it with the quarterback run, and that was one thing I've got to give Harriman a whole lot of credit because I heard all week from coaches in the area, from media in the Knoxville area, that Harriman's got all the athletes, but they're not very well coached. Well, that was a lie. They're very well coached. You could tell they've watched film. They made a really good adjustments. And they were better than us, but they made a lot of good adjustments, and it was a cat and mouse game back and forth between the 2 coaching staffs, and it was a very intense game in that regards in terms of schematics of it. And as a coach, those are a lot of fun, regardless of how the game turns out, because they made adjustments. We had to make our own adjustments, and then we'd start hurting them. Then they come back and make their own adjustments from there. So I've got to give their coaching staff a lot of credit because they did a great job, which it doesn't surprise me. That Coach Tapp has been there for years. Mm-hmm. He's been in that same school for years, and he does a lot of good stuff there, and gave us a lot of fits, and they had a lot of good players on top of that. And we had some guys that stood out as well, so definitely pleased with our guys' effort. Again, that's one thing previous teams, even teams I've coached, things would get out of hand and we'd lay down. And that's one thing this team hasn't done. And because very pleased, that's a good step, especially moving forward in there. And now we've been in some big games and look forward to kind of see how that progresses. But really pleased with a couple individual performances, especially quarterback position. Thomas played extremely well all night. He was 19 to 29 and put the ball in a lot of good places. He missed a couple shot plays, but he did a good job staying face because one thing Harriman did against us, they said you are not going to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Typically teams, if they try to stop the run, they'll put 6 in the box. We're a 10-personnel team. You put 6 in the box. Now you've outnumbered us in the box. Well, they put 7, and they said we're going to man you up outside. Now they have 2 extra numbers in the box, so it's kind of hard to run the ball at that point. So we had to make a decision. It's like, okay, we got to start throwing the ball, throwing some screens to kind of lighten the box to force in it. And they were never going to lighten the box. They just said, we are going to force it through. And I was like, okay, let's throw it. And so we found a lot of different ways to get our guys open, and we had a lot of big plays. One drive in particular, we shot ourselves in the foot a couple times with some penalties, but we just kept driving and driving. We hit a lot of posts early in the game that left the middle of the field open. Well, they made an adjustment, started playing their safeties in, so we started hitting them with some deep outs. Then they started taking the deep stuff away, so we started hitting them with some quick game.
Mm-hmm.
Then they took quick game away, and then we hit them slant behind the quick game, and then we started taking shots again. So it was and our receivers were doing a good job getting open. I think we had 4 or 5 receivers with catches on Friday night, and Thomas did a good job making sure of getting the ball around to different guys. And I definitely appreciate Yeshua's effort. Because it's kind of hard as a running back to be like, okay, I'm not getting any carries tonight, but our run game essentially became swings out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, that's going to have to be our run game because they're not letting us do anything in the box. And appreciate his effort. He was a little banged up Friday, and you could tell he's fighting through it. And because there's a couple plays, we get the ball out, and I think he scores most of the time. But he gets some big chunk plays for us to kind of get us in position to go down and score. And Brandon makes a good play on a 10-yard out, catches the ball, makes one guy miss. And one thing that doesn't show up on the stat sheet is Matt Boyd is running a vertical. And so he's behind the 10-yard out, and he goes to block. Well, you can't block back towards the play. So what he does is he runs in between him and the defender and Brandon, and he stands and puts his hand up like this and just stands
It's a
there.
smart thing to do, yeah.
And that was enough to get Brandon out and score a touchdown. And that's a smart IQ play. That type of stuff they don't show up on stat sheets that will help in big time games. But it was good to host a game. It's good to see good football, and now we kind of know, okay, what are the next steps? How are we going to be able to go compete? Because now we've seen, okay, that's what the 3 seed looks like. And that's a good thing since been here. We've been the 4 seed, then we've been the 3 seed. Now we're the 2 seed, and we've continuously improved. So, okay, now what's the next step to kind of move forward to get ourselves in a position to go win a playoff game?
And I know it's been a historic season here at North Greene. We've kind of touched on it. Since about week 6 or 7 when you started to go on that winning streak, and then once you started going towards a potential region championship, to the region championship, and then to hosting a playoff game. And we've talked about it so many times, but I feel like you can't talk about it enough when you have a season that's as historic as your all's has been with how the program's been in the last few years. But want to touch on it a bit more one more time before we do, though. Of course, we've got to get a break in from our sponsors one more time first. So we'll hear from Baileyton Drug, Starnes Barbershop, and the TA up the road when we get back real quick here on Grassroots Media.
Baileyton Drug Company services the surrounding communities of Baileyton with excellent patient care using a full-line pharmacy, over-the-counter selections, and a convenient drive-thru. When you visit us, you are treated as a neighbor, not a number. It's not just our slogan, but our culture. We're investing in our patients, local schools, and community. For over 5 years now, we have established ourselves as an independently family-run pharmacy that isn't driven by corporate goals. We are driven by what is best for your overall health and wellness. We are conveniently located so you don't have to make the drive. Prescription drugs are just the tip of the iceberg. We also offer natural remedies, essential oils, at-home medical needs such as walkers, rollators, bath accessories, as well as wound care products. And coming soon, basic urgent care services. What makes us better than other drugstores out there? When you frequent Baileyton Drug, you will receive professional, courteous, and friendly service that goes above and beyond any other pharmacy in the area. Remember, you're a neighbor, not a number.
Pizza, pancakes, or donuts? The Davy Crockett Travel Center in Baileyton has the cure for all your cravings. While you're there, shop our general store for souvenirs, gifts, and cellular accessories. In a hurry, grab a cold drink and a hot dog to go. Check us out on Facebook and come to Baileyton.
My name is Robert Starnes. I'm a lifelong resident of North Greene County, where I currently reside here with my wife and 3 children. I was a barber in Greenville for the last 6 years, but I have recently changed locations to my new shop in Baileyton. It's at 285 Mortis Hollow Lane, Afton. I'm also a proud supporter of North Greene Athletics. Come see me for all of your men and boys grooming needs. Go Huskies!
Welcome back to Grassroots Media. Welcome back to this week's edition of the Baileyton Drug Company Eric Tilson Show, presented by Starnes Barbershop, where we cover everything on the Tundra with the North Greene Huskies football team. As always, I'm joined here with head coach Eric Tilson. So we've been at the round table, I think, every week except 2 this year, of course. We went to Starnes Barbershop one week, and we actually sat out on the Tundra before the region championship. We usually just have 1, maybe 2 of your current helmets. But you surprised me this week. You brought back 2 of the old school throwback helmets, and I gotta say, they look nice.
They're pretty cool, aren't they?
I will say they look clean, but at the same time they don't look clean. But that's the beauty of it, is showing the wear and tear that the helmets went through back in the day when they were used. And I don't know what eras these are from, but they're sick.
This one's pretty cool. This is an old school suspension helmet. Like it's got the old school. And the 1 bar. I'd like to know what position this was.
Yeah.
It was obviously a lineman, 74. So if this was somebody's helmet, I'd like to know who it was. So that'd be pretty cool for them to come back and be like, hey, here's your helmet. It's still here.
And then this one looks kind of more modern.
Yeah. I guess more modern, I guess. Looks like climbing ropes in there.
Yeah, it really does.
Hey, we got a name.
Sam. So if you're Sam and use this helmet, it's still here.
Does that look like a husky?
A little bit.
I think it's been so worn and torn. These helmets. We typically have that in our meeting room. So up there, they're just really cool.
I mean, they are cool. At the end of the day, it's cool to see different helmets out here, and it's just cool to see the different eras of North Greene football. Of course, the football is usually always on the table too. We've had a hat on the table, but something else that I don't know if people have noticed. There's an Easter egg that we hide in these videos every week.
I don't think it's been there for 4 years. It's been there for 4 years.
It's been here for 4 years, and I don't know if anybody has really noticed it. So let's play a game with all the viewers out there.
I'll play a game, yeah.
So if you're able to find the Easter eggs that we've laid throughout these videos, you don't have to go back and watch all of them. You could just simply look on the screen right now, click the pause button, and if you can find the Easter egg in this video, it'll be on every video, but if you find it, we will give you a free haircut at Starnes Barbershop. So
I could tell them I'll pay them James Rome's mom's salary.
Okay.
He gets for football, which is a bag of Reese's.
There you go. But there's one Easter egg that we lay in here every week. Nobody's pointed it out. Nobody's came up to me and talked about it either. So I don't know if people are really noticing it or not, but we work really hard each and every week. So if you can find it, let us know. But
well, it's your Easter egg this week. Typically,
it is my Easter egg this
week.
week.
It's your Easter egg this
week. If
week.
you know me and if you watch my Saturday morning shows enough,
I think we're giving away too many clues now.
Maybe, but nobody's pointed it out yet, so maybe it's too hard to find. It shouldn't be too hard to find.
There's 4 years worth of it.
You're right, but What a season it's been.
Yes, it has.
What a season it's been. I know you've got the stats in front of you that you're about to read off. We've got another graphic to talk about that just shows everything that this senior class has done, and that's what I want to go into first. Is we could talk about the season alone. We've talked about the season a lot, but this season wouldn't have been possible without those seniors.
Yep.
Of course, you had Yeshua Vaught leading the way on defense and being your main workhorse on offense. You had so many other players a part of this senior class, though, that kind of laid the foundation for what this program has became. When you walked into this program, you had talked about it in the interview that you did with Dalton, that you walked into this program and had to change the culture and make it a team that people wanted to play for and come out and watch. And you've done that in a short amount of time, but it couldn't have been done without those seniors. So talk about the seniors and all that they've done in their 4 years here at North Greene.
Well, first off, as the head coach, like I can control certain things. I can control what is important. I can control what the culture is. I can control kind of how we lay out practice and stuff like that. Now, whether or not the culture gets implemented or not, and whether that has a lot more to do with how do your leaders of your team enforce the culture. Because really your culture is what do your kids allow and what do they hold each other accountable for. And that's where my job is really to guide these kids into that point. Yes, I help design offenses and help design defenses, and our assistant coaches collaborate on stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, it comes down to what do our kids do, and I say it all the time. As a coach, I can lose games, but I haven't won a single game.
Yeah.
I'm not the one going out making the plays, and these kids have the ones that have bought in. They're the ones that have done all this, and they're the ones that have turned North Greene into a proud program where they can go around, they can wear a North Greene football T-shirt and be proud of it. Because I know I walk around proud to wear it. I wear it anywhere I can because I'm proud of these kids, and it's about them. And we say it all the time. And yeah, I get to do this show every week, and I get to talk about the thing, but it's about these kids, about what they've done, especially a senior class. Might get emotional today because, like, a few of them, I haven't coached here without them.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know.
You don't know how it's going to be.
I don't know how it's going to be, and and especially this group, I genuinely enjoy being around them. When I say, like, yes, I'm going to miss their ability on the field. I'm going to miss their play on the field, but I'm just going to miss, like, sitting in this office with them and just kind of talking about life, talking about just goofing off, giving them a hard time. Like, that's the stuff that's really going to miss. That stuff really does drive culture because you really get to know each other and you really get to know your teammates, and they can sit back and they can be really proud of the things they accomplished. We're not talking about what could be. We're talking about what they've done. And this group is special. And they've got 14 total wins under their belt, which is the second highest in a 4-year class. And they went through a real struggle the first couple years. They've won 10 games in 2 years, which is impressive feat from there. They've 4 straight playoff appearances. So they've been to the playoffs every single year, and they've improved their seed as they've gone through. Had our first playoff game since 2011. Had our first playoff game since 2011 this past year, and that's only the third one all time. Within that, they from the year before they were here, the points per game margin to this year was improved by 37 points per game. That is offense, huge. Defense. That's a huge. That's 5 touchdowns per game. The improvement, because we actually scored more points than we gave up this year. And that just continues. They've improved every single year. They scored the second most points in a single game this year by 2 points. They scored 56 points. They recorded the first shutout in over 11 years, and they have 2 region winning records under their belt in the past 4 years for them. And that was the first one in over 12 years. And then when they first got here, they ended a 14-game losing streak. And I've been a part of a couple of those teams, type of teams I've done and broken streaks like that. It's really hard to do. To come in and be like, okay, you haven't won, and now you got to break it. And then it takes a whole nother level to maintain and continue that. And then once you get to that point, it takes a whole nother commitment. And these kids have been through all that. And then particularly a couple of them, Yeshua was our now career rushing leader, which I'll go over his stats here in a second. I got it on another deal here. We scored the most offensive points scored in a season of all time and shattered it by over 52 points. Scored about 300 points this year, average around 30 points a game. Had the most single wins in school history, tied for first there, and we have the most region wins in a single season. That is a lot to be able to hang your hat on if you're leaving here. And one thing that you always want to be able to do as a senior class is be able to turn around and walk off and say, I made this place better than when it was when I first got here.
And they made a huge impact.
And they made a huge impact. And we're going to feel that impact over the next few years. And the one thing is, you did a good job as a leader when the teams behind you, they have great leadership because they're emulating what you did. And that's really what we have out of this group. These 4 seniors did a fantastic job. Some of them were good early. Some of them grew into it. And I'm really proud of their accomplishments and really the way they conducted themselves doing it, because they did it the right way. In terms of overall, let me pull up their career statistics. I got a bunch of different. We'll start off with like Dash here. He's only here for 2 years. He finishes up his career, and this is only 2 years of stats. Last year and this year, he has 67 solo tackles, 30 assists with a total of 97 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. Had 3 interceptions, and one of those returned for a touchdown. 6. Yep, and in a big game when we needed a big play. From there, Weston Barrett, been a consistent player for us over the course of his career. Had 29 total tackles, 15 assists, 44 total. Had 4.5 tackles for loss, had 1 sack in his career. It was a solid force for us in the middle, and we made a decision this year with our defense line that we really needed to protect our linebackers, be able to let them run loose, and he did a great job with that. And then you talk about 2 that's really lit up a stat sheet. We'll start off Jake Duffy. He really grew up this year in terms of he's always played pretty well for us, but he really grew up in terms of a leader, and he did kind of transformed his leadership style, and he was one of those where he's very competitive, and he'll let it be known, where he kind of turned that into an asset where he's able to use that and really help guide the team. And truthfully, I said this being here, this was the type of team where I could sit back and be quiet.
Yeah. And
I didn't really have to handle a whole lot because they would handle it before it even got to me. And they'd be like, oh, Coach, we've already handled it. Okay, great. And that was great from there. And then to watch their improvement year to year is enormous because Jake finishes up his career with over 1,000 receiving yards total in his career, had 89 receptions. Kind of had a drop off last year. Only had 2 touchdowns, caught for 199 yards, but he exploded this year. He had 53 catches for 541 yards and 6 touchdowns. And a lot of them came in big plays. And this is also considering a lot of these stats this year came in where these guys did not play half of games.
Yeah.
They were sitting on the sideline once they were pulled. He had 11 total touchdowns in his career receiving, and that's to top off with his rushing. He had 3 touchdowns in his career rushing for an average of 4.1 yards per carry. Defensively is kind of where he made himself known, especially past couple years. He finishes his career with 101 solo tackles, 42 assists with a total of 143 tackles, 4 tackles for loss and 1 sack. He'll finish his career with 4 interceptions and 1 interception for a touchdown.
Castlewood?
Yes, I believe.
Last year. Yep. That was the Jake Duffy game last year.
Yep, it was. But, again, his presence known, it's one of those kids like, man, how do we replace that?
Yeah.
And him as a leader and him as a player, he's really made an impact on this program in a very big positive way. And then, of course, everybody hears about Yeshua Vaught. Of course, he'll finish up as the all-time leading rusher in North Greene football history. He had 572 rushes for 2,788 yards for an average of 4.9 yards per carry. He'll finish his career with 24 touchdowns in his career. I don't know if that's a record or not.
Yeah, I was going to ask because
I really don't know.
It's got to be up there. It's got to be high on that list.
I'd like to do a project where I go back to the Greenville Sun and like go through all their stuff and kind of see.
Go through past games. That would be cool.
If anybody wants to do that project, that'd be fantastic. It'd be cool to kind of see from there. He'll finish with 18 catches for 220 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And then this year, he didn't have as many yards rushing this year as he had in the past, but his funny thing is his yards per carry went up every single year, and his touchdowns increased.
That's good.
And so he's a whole lot more efficient. But where he really made himself known this year was defensively.
Yes.
And we kind of knew, like, I kind of figured, like, he can play linebacker at the next level. Like he's that linebacker that I would have recruited.
Yeah.
Coming out, and he's like he's got the build for it, he's got the speed for it, he has the physicality, and kind of has that natural instinct, especially defensively. And so, just this season alone, had 46 solo tackles, 64 assisted tackles, for a total of 110 tackles.
That's got to be high on the list too of single season tackles.
Yep. And this is another thing. Like some, I'm not gonna say what schools, but there are schools out there that count anybody who barely touches the pile as an assisted tackle. If you're solo, you're by yourself. If you're assisted, only 2 people get it. That's it. So the first person there gets assist, and the second person. That's it. So there may be some they're on top of the pile, but they're third or fourth one there, they don't get credit for an assist. So like we're very stringent on. So when we say 110 assisted, now some people may say, well, assists only count for half of it. Well, that's fine too. But it's 64 assists. You can do your math from there. But most people count both those together as total tackles. That's where most people get their stats from. So he finishes with over 100 this year. 5 tackle for losses and 2.5 sacks with 1 interception and 1 for a touchdown at Unaka. He will finish his career with 156 solo tackles, 92 assisted tackles, and 250 total tackles, 20 tackle for losses, and 6.5 sacks, and 3 interceptions. I would call that a heck of a career. He definitely has made an impact here at North Greene. And there's one thing to be said about being where your feet are and doing what you can. And he's always been a guy, like, he probably doesn't even know what his career stats are. He probably could care less. Back every player cares. And he always talked about, you hear him talking about when he broke the career rushing record.
It was a family thing, too.
It was a family thing, and his uncle had the career rushing record, and he always wanted to beat it. And then after he beat it, he's like, okay, what next? it's like it was cool. He was like, it
was cool. It's always cool.
It was cool at the time, but like I've got other goals. I want to win.
Yeah.
And he did exactly that, and that's where he was willing to take offensively, take a role, and we needed him to run the ball well, and he did. And but teams keyed on him a lot, so our run game revolved around if they're going to take him out of the equation. Well, we're going to have other people to be able to take a lot of that weight off his shoulders, which allowed him to score quite a bit this year. That's where he made his big difference, was able to score touchdowns this year, not necessarily just rack up a bunch of yards, because he rushed for over 1,000 yards a couple years ago. He averaged almost 6 yards a carry this year.
Yeah. So.
Well, a couple years ago, he rushed for over 1,000 yards, but he only had like 4 yards per carry,
Which I can see is the least amount that he's had through his career. So.
But he would, you'd ask him, he'd rather score, and I mean, me too. I'd rather score touchdowns than rack up a bunch of yards, because that means you're being efficient and you're doing the things you're supposed to. But his impact defensively, that's huge. And one game in particular, probably the biggest game at that point, biggest game in school history. We need him to show up. We design our defense that week to keep him free. So like our defense line, hey, your job's to take out blockers. Other linebackers, your job is to take on the fullbacks. Let 3 go make the play. He has 24 tackles.
Cloudland?
Yes.
Yes.
Cloudland game. He has 24 tackles in a single game.
And might also be a school record for a single game.
It may be. I don't know. So there's been some really good linebackers come walk the halls here and play here. So it very, very well could be, but he can leave here knowing that he's one of the best to ever wear the green.
And I would not be shy to say if you made an all-time North Greene team, he's going to fit somewhere on that team.
Oh yeah,
whether it's running back, linebacker, third down running back, somewhere he's going to be on there
he's
somewhere.
He's going to be on it. If not, even if just for his leadership ability. He's not the big talker thing, but and that's one thing too. I never had to worry about him not coming to practice. I never had to worry about him not giving absolutely everything in the weight room, because people won't realize, like, he's 195 pounds now. All right, he's a big back, a big linebacker. He came in at like 155, 160. And then he just invested himself in the weight room, got stronger and stronger. And I remember one point during the summer, we're doing RDLs, Romanian deadlift, which is like a slight knee bend, straight leg deadlift. And I've coached strength conditioning coordinator college level, and we're doing a max effort day, and I've never really seen anybody like put a whole lot of weight on that. He puts over 500 pounds on a Romanian deadlift and just kills it. And I was like, hey, buddy, I have never seen that. He's like, out of high school? No, out of anybody.
That's impressive.
I've never seen it before. And he smoked it, and it was it's kind of that point where you can see that competitive side come out, and he didn't get riled up for it. He didn't say much about it. He just went and did it. And that's just kind of the type of leadership, and you have to have that, because we had the loud leadership out of Weston. We had the loud leadership out of Jake. And we had kind of that personal leadership out of Dash, and then Yeshua kind of has that quiet, reserved, like, I'm going to go do my job, and if you don't do what you're supposed to, I'm just going to lay you out on the practice field type of attitude. So, and you need all of that, and all of that combined turns into a pretty good class. So I'm really proud of this class, and they started off with about 10 to 12 people total as freshmen, and most of the time about 10 to 15% make it. And so they start withering away, because football's hard.
Yeah.
Football's real hard, and it's a hard sport. It's a contact. I don't even call it a contact sport. It's a collision sport, and it requires and demands a whole lot out of you. And some people aren't willing to do it, and some people don't make it. And but they were able to say that they played football for all 4 years.
And I wanted to talk about 3 of your favorites throughout the year also, because we touch on the senior class. We touch on everything that they've accomplished and everything that you've accomplished this year. But I want to get your insight on things. I want to hear, of course, you talk about how much you've enjoyed coaching that senior class. I want to hear some of your favorite moments throughout the season. So that's the first question I'll start off with. There's 3 favorites I always like to ask about at the end of every season. The first one I'll ask about is some of your favorite moments, whether that's in practice that nobody saw, or whether it's on a sideline after a big play, or it's during a game, or if it's in here at a coaching meeting or something. What were some of your favorite moments throughout the season?
Well, some of those moments I'm not going to repeat on camera.
Completely understand that.
But we've had some funny moments in a team meeting room, and just kind of some crazy situations happening, and we're able to make a lot hard of it, and those are the type of things you remember. But in terms of football-wise, a couple in particular, Thomas is a rather reserved kid, and you won't ever really hear him talk a whole lot, and I can't remember which game it was, but the opposing team kept talking to him, and not in so polite terms.
Yeah.
And he turned around one time, and we had a quarterback run called, and he looks over. I remember it was Cumberland Gap, and he looks at the defense and says, "Hey, I'm running the ball right here, and you can't stop it." And then he runs it right in for a touchdown. That was I was like, Thomas, I didn't know you had that in you. And then he started gaining more confidence as a runner throughout the year because
that game was a big confidence boost for him. If I remember right, he had over 100 yards and a touchdown in that one.
Yep, and he threw the ball well in that game too. That was one in particular, and it's not necessarily this year, but there was one point with Jake, and he likes to tackle with his head quite a bit, and we don't teach that, so we teach a shoulder rugby tackle, and there's a couple times he'd come in with the back of his head, and I'm just getting on him like, Jake, you must be the hardest-headed person I have ever seen in my life, and so that was a couple years ago, and he just loves it. And then there was a couple moments I remember this year. People don't think this now after the way the season unfolded, but Jellicoe was a real big win. Because at the point, Jellicoe was a good team at that point. They were about 3 plays from being undefeated at that point, and they were healthy at that point. They had a couple key injuries after our game. But seeing our kids give up 2 big scores late in the game, and then seeing them in their eyes, and as we was like, okay, we got to go down and score, and they go down and score. Then they give up another big play. It's like, okay, we got to go down and score again, and we just marched right down the field. Well, Yeshua gets hurt during that drive, and so he's not available for the rest of the game. So and we put Leon in, and we're moving just right along as we should be, and we hit some adversity there, and the moment, and we've talked about this during the show before. There at the end of the game where we run a play, it doesn't work out because we're looking on the other side of the field. Well, Brandon Weems is wide open here.
Yeah.
Well, we run another play, like we run a pop pass, and it was contested, but we could have had to play there. Well, 4th down, call a timeout. Brandon comes over and said, "Coach, I'm open on this play. I will get open." Well, and he's like, "Run the same play." Well, truthfully, the play call itself is not a good play call. Because at that point, you want to have everybody in the end zone. And I kind of had an idea of what I wanted there. But he had that look in his eye. And he had so much confidence coming off the field. It's just like, all right, buddy. You got it. Let's call it. And it wasn't just that. His brother, Braden, asked a great question on the side. He's like, "Hey, do you want me to run my route in the end zone?" And I was like, "No, right now, because I want you to hold that safe. Like, I want you to run yours at your normal depth that you would anywhere else, because I want you to hold that guy." So, and you kind of see those football IQ start thinking from there, and then and that's kind of when you start figuring out Thomas is a gamer, because He holds the pocket. He makes a pocket move, and then he makes a throw, and like you don't even see the guy, like as you mentioned, like you don't even see him on camera.
Yep.
But Thomas puts it right in the area where nobody is, and touchdown, and we win the game. So those are a couple moments you kind of see football wise that like okay, we've got something here, and of
Great
course,
moment after the game too, being able. I know something that you've done a lot this year is you count after every win.
Yep.
You count up to how many points you score after the win, and in that game after Yeshua got hurt, of course you wanted to count with him, but he couldn't really come out
Yep.
there to you all. So what you did was you said, "Hey, go celebrate with him. Go count with the fans."
Yep.
And it was cool to see them count with the fans too, because not often do you see come from behind victories from North Greene.
Mm-hmm.
And even this year where you win 6 games, it was the only come from behind victory outside of Cloudland because you were up by so many points at that point. So it was great to see that moment after the game where you all got to celebrate with the fans and count up with them.
Well, and that was a long trip too, so
Yes,
it's like it
it
shows
is.
some dedication on their part to be there. So it's kind of good it was good to see all that. And then, of course, another funny moment, not related to our program, but like with the counting part, is I remember before the Unaka game, my kids love the counting. Like they want to come count at
Yeah.
any game, and they're like, "Can we come count with us?" Like, sure. And then my wife's just like, "Can you even count that high?" And I was like, "Oh, be quiet." But before the Unaka game, my son was like, "Hey, Daddy, I want you to count to 80 this week." I was like, "Buddy, I will sure try." and we sit here and we're up by 40 at halftime. I was like, "God dang, he might get his wish." So, but that's off the field. But of course, probably the best moment football wise was Cloudland game, and kind of their resolve.
That kind of works into my next question. I was going to go into some of your favorite games, or if you had a favorite game.
Oh yeah, Cloudland.
Yeah.
Cloudland game was a fun one for sure. Jellicoe was a fun game too, and because those are the type of games you get into, and it starts being real tight. Like, yeah, this is why you coach. This is why you play. This is why you play football, is for these type of games. And Cloudland was a difficult game, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy because it's hard to go up Roan Mountain and play. And be able to come off the mountain with a win is huge. I've only beat them now 4 times in school history.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many times there either. So it's hard to go up there and win. And to see our resolve throughout that game, and kind of see our effort come out and see us execute really well, and things we've practiced all year show up in that game. And not a lot of people know we have a bunch of 2-point plays. We designed them at the beginning of the year because at that point we didn't have a kicker. So we're like, okay, we got to go for 2 a bunch. So we came up with a bunch of funky formations and stuff you might see on TV, stuff we ran before at other places, and we just came up and put it on our wristband, and we practiced them every week just in case we might need them. And then Juan Soto shows up, and
Our boy Juan.
He was perfect on the year, 20 for 20 on extra points.
That's
and
awesome.
1 for 1 on field goals, and so we kept practicing them because hey, we might need this at some point. Well, Cloudland game comes around, and for a reason I'm not going to mention, he wasn't available to play during that game. So we're like, okay, we've got to go for 2 now. And it just so happens those 2-point plays that we worked on all year ended up making the difference because we win 24-22 because Cloudland goes for 2 every single time.
If you kick those extra
We
points.
kick the extra points, it's 22-21, and we end up converting on all 3 extra points to go up 24-22, and that ended up being the difference in the game.
It's crazy how things work out that
Yeah,
way.
it is
You never
crazy.
anticipate that. Of course, when you have a kicker, why not go ahead and kick it? But
Yep.
in a situation like that, it proved out to be useful that you didn't have the kicker that week.
Yeah, it's good. Kind of funny how things work out like that. But a couple kids this year kind of just point out some individual performances. Kind of hard not to talk about the success of the season without talking about Thomas Darnell. And he was great both in the pass game and run game. He finished up the year, had 96 completions on 185 attempts with 51% completion percentage. He'll finish up with 1,285 yards and 16 passing touchdowns. He rushed 81 times for 541 yards with an average of 6.7 yards per carry and 8 touchdowns. So he finishes up his junior year with 24 total touchdowns on the year, which is huge.
Remarkable, yeah.
Yep. Another one is Brandon Weems had a stellar year this year. Had 24 catches for 362 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. That's huge because that was where previous years we didn't have we'd have one singular receiver stand out, but when you have multiple, because I'm looking through here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different people who caught touchdown catches. Jake had 6, Brandon had 5, Kelson Eastep had 3, Yeshua and Matthew both had 1 touchdown apiece in the pass game, which is huge. In the run game, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different guys score touchdowns in the run game. Yeshua had 8, Thomas had 8, Leon had 3, and Jake had 1, and Jared Swatzel had 1. That's 21 total rushing touchdowns on the year. Ended up totaling for 1,400 yards rushing on the year. So pretty good year offensively.
Absolutely. We could go through and we could talk about that. And like you've talked about, you don't know exactly a lot of the records because there's technically not a record book here at North Greene, but
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of those also probably set a lot of single-season records here in North Greene.
You would like to think so, especially when you're scoring the highest most of them. There about has to be.
And you only had 1 field goal, so
Yep.
yeah.
So you're scoring a lot of points in a lot of different places, but some other guys again had big years. Leon Johnson had another big year defensively, 75 total tackles, had 4.5 sacks on the year and 7 tackles for losses. Defensive line-wise, Dylan Gentry really stepped up in his sophomore year, had 10.5 tackles for losses and 2 sacks on the year, and then just a lot of good play overall. Got a lot of people to go through, point out individually, but just really proud overall. And of course, I'm going to not be able to talk about everybody here for time's sake, but it is. They're able to kind of take a rest now and be able to be proud of. It's not like, okay, well, we can look to improve next year. It's like, no, you guys did a great job. Be proud of that fact. Yes, we can improve, but
You need the time to celebrate what you've done.
Yes, you need to celebrate. That football is a unique sport in that regards. You only get 10 opportunities to play, and so.
And you never expect some things to happen like happened this year too, which almost take one of those opportunities away from you.
Well, there for a little while, we're like, are we going to play again?
Yep.
What is happening? And it's kind of an interesting, because you never know if we continue the rhythm of the season. Like, who knows what happens? And because one of those games is kind of a bust because we're in the middle of dealing with hurricane mess and kids in and out of practice. We don't know when school's coming back. It's just it's hard to kind of win, because football's a big rhythm sport where you do the same thing on every Monday. You do the same thing every Tuesday. You do the same thing every Wednesday.
Walk through on
Thursday. And then your scheduled pregame is always the same. Yep. So it's very rhythmic sport. So when the rhythm gets disrupted, it's hard to get back into the routine of things. But our guys were able to face that adversity. And yeah, it might have affected our season, but our kids are going to be better for it. Because as they go on into their jobs, into the workforce, as they go to be parents, because they're parents, I can go ahead and tell you that their rhythm is going to get disrupted. And so they'll be better off for it because they've handled situations like it. And now they have the resolve to continue to do it. And once you've done it multiple times, then it's easier to do it the next time. That's kind of the good part about this program is now we've started to been in those big games, and we're having more and more of those big games. And the more big games you're a part of, the more you can compose yourself, the more that you know how to, what do you need to do to execute, because you have to have another level of execution in those big games. Where the first couple times you're in those big games, it's like it's overwhelming. You're like, I don't know what to do. Well, now our kids, how many big games you say we played last year? 3 or 4?
Yeah. This year you played a lot because I think you were the team that had the target on your back this year. So
we got 3 or 4 big games under our belt this year where, like even as a coach, like since I've been here, I don't know if I had that nervous feeling going into the game, because for the most part you kind of know what's going to happen. You the expectation is like, we can win this one, but it's
you're not
like
favored if you put odds on it. Yeah.
So, and then you go into like games that mean a whole lot late in the season. Your stomach clenches up, and you start to feel butterflies. You get nervous, and it kind of changes your outlook on things. You start hyper focusing on certain things, and sometimes you can hyper focus on the wrong thing, and when you do it more often, you're able to be calm, cool, and collected. And typically, those are the teams that win. And there is such thing as big game letdowns, and those happen. And the more big games that you have, then you kind of get used to it, and you kind of know how to overcome it. And that's a good thing is we got more kids who have been part of big games.
It's been a terrific season, Coach.
Yes, it has.
It has, and it feels weird leaving here not asking you what your 3 keys of the game are this week. But one more time, we got to hear them. What are your 3 keys?
3 keys? Well, got to have great playmakers. Got to make plays. Got to have great tackling. Got to have great effort.
Absolutely.
And our kids better have great effort finishing out the year in school.
That's exactly what I was about to lead towards. I mean, that's one thing that you could take with you in life too. Is you got to have great effort in life too. But
I don't know about great tackling.
Well, you could tackle things in life, but not physically, not literally. But, Coach, that's all we've got. Once again, from the round table, we appreciate y'all for watching this year's edition of the Baileyton Drug Company Eric Tilson Show, presented by Starnes Barbershop. Coach, appreciate you one last time. Don't forget the Easter egg. If you've made it this far, and if you have, you're a trooper. Thank you for making it this far. But thank you all for watching. We look forward to seeing y'all next year here on Grassroots Media.